And a little more subdued sounder for this Sunday evening. Hi, this is Stan Houston once again. It's interesting ideas, and we're coming your way. I'm standing in the studio after a busy day of life in church, and now getting ready for the week. So I'm taking time for my own Sunday night meeting here in my studio, and I thought I'd put out today's message just for you. Now, usually May Day, particularly if you're old like me, it was quite a celebration. As children, I remember my mom, we would make May baskets, and then we would take them to all the other neighborhood kids, and particularly you'd lay a May basket in front of pretty girls, and they were always pretty girls. My mom would tell me that. And then, run away, and you'd leave a May basket for them. And it was a celebration day, even if you may not have involved yourself in that kind of activity. It was great. Now, finally, for sure, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, spring is going to be here. Summer is on its way. Winter is done. May Day is a good day. Well, there's a lot of things about today's May Day, which, things are kind of somber. The news isn't good on almost any front. And the picture stories coming out of Ukraine continue to remind us of the terrible devastation going there. And you wish that we had the people in charge who had the wisdom and the courage and the ability to do the right thing. And most of us feel, I wouldn't say most of us, but many of us feel that we just don't have the leadership. And that is not just a political judgment. I think it's true of so many of our institutions today. Our educational, our political, certainly the people who do the health care and do the care, they're wonderful, better than ever. However, the policy decisions that are being made about the COVID crisis and the health care situation certainly leave something to be desired by the leadership. And so then there's the inflation and all of that is doing things to our economy. I cannot believe some of the prices we saw at the grocery store yesterday. You just say, when will it be better? Now, one of the things I talked about on Friday was the fact that people who tend to predict the future tend to be wrong. And part of the problem is that many of us, when we predict the future or think about the future, we're fairly convinced that things will be better. That's why, New Year's Day, hey, this year is going to be better than last year. Well, many times it's not. But we tend to view the future as, well, it will be better. And in a long sense, that's probably a good idea. And in a much longer sense, it is true. For those people of the right spirit-force relationships, yeah, eventually, you may go through all kinds of turmoil, tragedy, and disturbance, but things will be better. However, last night there was I found it strange. It was very, very sad. Many of you know I'm talking about. I'm not a country western fan, but who didn't know about the Judds? And, of course, discovering that Naomi Judd had died, and she's my age. She shouldn't die. This is a world-class performer. And what got me, though, and I'm sure it struck many people, was that it was said that she died of a mental illness. Now, what did that mean? I caught myself saying, what's that? How do you die of mental illness? My wife then informed me that she had had a history of depression, and maybe that was it. Could it have been that maybe she took her own life or something like that? I mean, we're left in these questions. What does it mean to die of mental illness? And as I speak this, I still don't know. But the expression caught me, and I thought about that. To die of mental illness. Well, we're all going to die. Now, most of us can't come to grips with that. But as one of the guys who taught me a lot, though I never knew him, was a guy named Ernest Becker, who wrote a book called The Denial of Death. And his point was quite well positioned, is that once we have the knowledge and the courage and the insight to be able to face the possibility of our own death and not be afraid. If you could overcome your fear of death, which most people have, that is the origin of all of our fears. And the person who, through their faith, their strength, or perhaps they've gone through a near-death experience, that's been a lot of it, or people who have gone through the terriblest of tragedies, the Auschwitz, the Holocaust, those people oftentimes come out and live lives with great gratitude and happiness and fullness because death has no fear over them anymore. That's a good place to be, and I'm really asked that I will have that. Now, the problem is we may not be afraid of death, but the dying is another thing. What do you go through? How might that happen, or what will it be? I remember how blessed we were. We'd even kidded about it. My wonderful mother-in-law, she said, I just want to go to sleep one night and wake up in heaven. Just, wake up dead, we said. She said, right, wake up dead. Well, in some ways, that's exactly what happened. And that was good. That was good. She went to bed, fine, suffered a stroke, and never recovered and soon died again. But what will dying be like, and what might it be like to die of mental illness? Well, I just posed this because I'm thinking about it, and I thought that we should think about it because being able to help and not be judgmental and simply caring for people who are going through mental illness. There's all kinds of physical illness, but those people who have to deal with mental illness, and maybe not through their own being or doing or their lifestyle that got away from them, but a mental illness that just has trapped them in some ways that they don't want to live anymore. To die of mental illness. Again, I don't know what it means, but I'm wondering about it and thinking about it. And I certainly say we pray for the JUDD family, famous family, They've done a lot of good. People love them, and, they good old country music, maybe a little bit of country western and certainly some country gospel, and just charming, both in their lives and their personalities and their performance. They did nothing but good, it seems. And to have that happen, and the family grieves. But I do know this, in effect, that all of us suffer in some respects from mental illness. We're all, as my Dr. Jim says, we're all a little bit sick. And in some ways. And those of us who escape being a lot of bit sick need to thank God for that privilege of only being a little bit sick. And perhaps to even wonder about our own stage. Are we doing the things in terms of relationships and lifestyle that sometimes our mental illness simply comes from, our anger, our way of living, our way of thinking. We can certainly go down that path. And as one of my friends told me, he said, Stan, you have to understand that scared to death is not just an expression. For some people, it's reality. They die because they are just so full of fear. That's why they die. He said it's never on the death certificate, but sometimes the death certificate should say, cause of death, scared. Well, it's easy to be scared and be fearful. And right now, as I heard about that and I prayed through it, and I prayed for a lot of people this morning as we went through our worship service, I just say for those people whose life is very, very difficult and very, very traumatic right now, that we'll reach out to those people we know, that we certainly will pray that God will be around to do a lot more healing of the mental illness which is plaguing our world right now, and that there will be a sense that we will more and more come out of the many illnesses that pervade us, and that we will have better lives before us. There we go. Just 10 minutes of thought on Sunday night. And I do so in a way to try and prepare my heart, mind, and spirit so that I will not be fearful of the week ahead of me, because I've got a lot of tough decisions to make, going through a lot of difficulties right now in putting life and business together. But we will not be afraid. As St. Julian of Norwich said, all will be well. And we pray that for you, and I pray it for me, and I pray it for my grandson Arlo, and I pray it for all of us. May we all live as long as we can. May we prosper as best as we can, and may we know much love to us all. Always close with a benediction, so that's it. Best and blessings to us all. Till next time, bye for now.